Hello and welcome to today's Dental Business Transaction podcast, and it's with enormous pleasure that I'm talking with Bernie Hollywood, OBE. And before Bernie starts to tell you a little bit about what he's up to, I'm gonna blow your trumpet for you here, Bernie, because I think it's very important that we put some context behind what you're doing and, most importantly, what you've done. So those of you that don't know Bernie, you've launched a campaign called Boat of Hope, and it's a mission to open up a conversation about depression in early years children and young adults, and we'll touch upon that shortly. But also, of course, you have an extraordinary record. You've raised personally £42 million in charity over the last 40 years, is that correct?
That's right, Lily, yes.
Lovely. And obviously your work continues apace. You sit on the board of a number of charities. You do a lot of lecturing around the world, including speaking at the United Nations. I'd love to hear about that a little bit later on. Houses of Parliament, and also giving advice to people on how we can make the world a better place. But today we're going to focus more about the Boat of Hope charity. And you're also a bit of a sportsman, because I read somewhere that you've got the world record for long distance running. Is that correct? Or marathon running?
Yeah, it's...
yeah. You're a man of many sporting endeavours, aren't you? So first of all, in a nutshell, let's talk about the Boat of Hope and the Telescopic challenge. Perhaps you'd like to tell our listeners how on earth you got involved in this.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks, Lily, for inviting me onto your podcast. I really greatly appreciate the opportunity to come along and talk to your viewers and listeners as well. So thank you so much before we start. The Boat of Hope really it's a very simple campaign. And it came about really by sort of personal interest for myself, is that a number of my family suffer with mental health issues, and I basically struggled with that from the point of view that there's as a parent and as an individual, it's extremely difficult for any person to actually help somebody with a mental health issue that really isn't a clinical psychologist or a doctor, and it's very difficult effectively to look at somebody that's basically is mentally unwell and is suffering from mental depression, and that basically takes shape in many forms, to actually do anything about it or help that individual as best you can. So it's somewhat from that position, I thought, if we could reach out to as many young people as we possibly can as early as possible, and get them to do the first thing that everybody needs to do when they actually get into that situation, which is talk. We just might be able to prevent a number of those young people in their adolescent years and into their adult years potentially go into a full-blown depression, which sadly on a number of occasions does end in those people taking their lives through suicide. So we looked around and we could see that there are amazing agencies and charities and support groups that are doing just so many incredible things in the mental health space. But we really wanted to approach it very differently, and we really approached it from the creative arts point of view. And our campaign, our mission statement is very simple, is that we're using the creative arts and adventure to actually open up a conversation about suicide and depression with early years children and young adults. That's it. That's what our campaign is all about. Alongside that, we have two incredible charitable partners, which we're supporting through the next 24 months. And we're looking to actually help raise funds to support their amazing mental health charitable support through the Samaritans, which is basically an emotional support service for people with mental health issues, particularly when they've got suicidal thoughts, and also for Love Rowing, which is the British Rowing Charitable Foundation, which helps young children in deprived areas of the United Kingdom, particularly when they're suffering with mental health issues, to actually use sport and rowing as a catalyst to actually get them engaged into a positive way of thinking. So that's the campaign in a nutshell. It's over a 2-year period. As I say, our key mission is to open up as many conversations as we possibly can about suicide and depression, effectively to try and help destigmatize the issue and to raise a few bob along the way as well.
That's fantastic. So tell me about how Okay, let's do a resume here. So you're 63 years old, solo, 90 days at sea, one rowing boat and 3,000 nautical miles. Bernie, who talked you into that?
Do you know, it's a great question, Lily, because I never started rowing up until about 3 years ago. And it's a very, again, I fell into rowing in a really, really simple way. I was just walking down the River Dee in Chester, in Cheshire, with my partner Sharon, one Christmas morning, three plus years ago. And we're walking across a beautiful bridge that basically leads down to the river. And I saw this single solo rower coming down the river, just like a vision. It was just, this individual was just flowing down the river, just gracefully like a swan. And I just turned to Sharon and I said, you know what, I'd love to do that one of these days. And she turned around and said to me, well, nothing else has stopped you in the past. What's stopping you now? Thought nothing of it. And as we walked past down the river, we actually passed a rowing club called Grosvenor Chester Rowing Club. And believe it or not, in their notice board window was a learn to row sign as we walked past that morning with a telephone number. And Sharon took a photograph of it and she gave it to me. She said, why don't you give them a call and sign up? So that's exactly what I did. So 3.5 years later, I now found myself basically entering the toughest rowing competition in the world, which is the Telescopic Atlantic Challenge. And I'm taking part in this year's row, which is in December 2022, rowing solo across the Atlantic. And the reason I chose the challenge in relation to the campaign was that I wanted to go solo because I really wanted to actually feel in my mind what solitude meant and how I am actually going to, actually cope with the solitude and all of the challenges that will bring across that period of time. Because as soon as I've left San Sebastian Harbour in La Gomera next December, when the fleet, and there's 40 of us actually taking part in the race, when we just basically come out of the actual harbour, within a matter of days, nobody will see anybody until we touch land in Antigua, some 60 to 90 days later, depending on winds, how we're physically doing, storms, etc., etc., etc.
How is the training going? Because obviously this is endurance training, and whilst you can't, until you actually do it, it's a different kettle of fish, as we know. But how's it going? How are the calluses on your hands, Bernie?
Oh, I've got many of them actually, Lily. From
got lots of tape.
That's from rowing a normal conventional boat as well. The training's going very well. I have to say, it's first and foremost, it is a solo campaign and it's a solo race from that point of view. But I have a huge team of people around me. Like any good dental practice or any good business, you surround yourself with incredible people and amazing things happen. So although I'm one person in one boat, I'm not. In fact, if you look at the back of my background, you'll see my boat, which is extremely colourful, but that's actually a 42-foot mural, which was commissioned by a renowned artist in the United Kingdom called Justin Eagleton. And I asked Justin to paint in his mind the journey of a young person going through depression on one side of the boat, which is 24 foot. And then on the other side of the boat, I wanted to actually sort of show that person coming out of depression with basically support, help and encouragement. And there are over 2,500 images on the boat. It's a beautiful digital mural that Justin has put together. And the great thing about it is that we actually, again, we didn't ask ourselves how we felt. We went out to over 6,500 high schools and we asked high school students, what did they feel hope meant to them? And the amount of feedback that we got, and this was in the middle of a pandemic, the amount of feedback we got was sensational and quite harrowing, some of the things that we heard and saw, but also so encouraging from really where youth feel they're going in the future. And we had a national competition in association with our supporting partner, Parent Pay, and we chose 6 winners to have their artwork put onto the boat, which is going to come across the Atlantic with me. And I'm so proud of those pieces of artwork. And those beautiful winners came down to our launch at the Maritime Museum in October last year. We launched the boat with their artwork in it. They came and saw their artwork actually come to life. And we had Gillian Keegan, who's the Minister of Health. She came along and launched the boat as well for us. So yeah, it is one person, one boat, but it isn't. I have over 2,500 people behind me in various shapes and forms. And it's quite comforting to know that they're going to be there when I get into difficulty on the ocean.
Absolutely. And of course, we discussed, didn't we? We have a mutual very good friend, Charlie Pitcher, of course, whose boat design this is, Rannoch Adventures, and he himself is a world record holding single-handed rower. So you've got him, he's an amazing team. I follow him anyway on Facebook and track him, and now of course I'm following you. And I've been seeing so much really positive media for you. I'm always watching you popping up with television celebrities, broadcasters, news. It's fantastic to watch. And of course, the book. Now, tell us a little bit about the book, which, by the way, I purchased.
Oh, Lily, thank you.
That's all right. It was a quick read because obviously it was for little children, but it's not about that.
It's a fabulous book. I'd say the concepts of what we do. We wanted to use the creative arts to actually reach out and engage with children. And the campaign is split up into two sections. It's split up into early years, which is 5 to 11, and from 11 to 18-year-olds. And we basically sat down and we thought, right, how can we actually best engage in those two groups of people and actually open up the conversation about mental health and well-being? And we felt that through literature and telling a story, particularly to the 5 to 11-year-olds, was a great way of us doing that. So I reached out to an amazing, children's award-winning author called Natalie Reeve Billings. And I had this concept of a story in my mind about a young boy going to sea with a boat and going up through ups and downs and getting to this safe haven, this harbour, with all of the help and support of his friends along the way. And I went through the concept with Natalie, and then she went away and then basically, with her genius, wrote this incredible book called Bernie and Boaty. And it follows the adventure of a young 7-year-old boy who befriends this amazing boat, who's extremely nervous about going to sea. And then at the end of it, they come through a lot of adversity, but they come through that with a lot of help and support of others. And by working together, they basically find hope and they find a solace in this incredible island that they get to at the end of the story. And the beautiful thing about the story as well is that it rhymes. So when you're actually telling it to a 5-year-old or 11-year-old, it just goes beautifully along with this rhyme, which has also been made into a sea shanty. And that's been recorded on iTunes. And the book, which we're very proud of, by the way, is a #1 Amazon best-selling children's book.
Fantastic.
We're so proud of. And when we know we're opening up conversations to young people about this important subject, because believe it or not, children aged 5 to 11 also suffer mental issues as well. They are very anxious about everything that's going on in the world, pandemics, and now, sadly, we have the war in Ukraine. So they're all going through a lot of trauma, more trauma than we faced when we were kids. So the book is a bit of solace, and it's an opportunity for a parent, guardian, or teacher to actually navigate that young person through their mental health needs. So we're very proud of it, very proud of it.
Rightly so. It's beautifully illustrated. And of course, you've got former Spice Girl star Mel Chisholm.
It was a bit of a coup, actually. We actually were looking to actually think about making it into a cartoon, an animation. And again, the team that I have is just incredible. I mean, I could give you so many mentions. I'd lose count of all my team, but they know who they are. But through one of our incredible connections, they knew Melanie C, and we were looking for a narrator for our trailer for our animated series, which hopefully we're going to get done as well. And we reached out to Melanie, and she loved the idea of what the book was all about. She read it to her child, and she was delighted to come on board and narrate our book trailer, along with an amazing actor called Sacha Dhawan.
Sacha Dhawan, yes, I was going to ask you about him.
And Sacha is a huge supporter of us, along with Mel, and he gave his amazing voice on the actual trailer as well. People will know him from Line of Duty and Doctor Who and all sorts of screen and stage. He's an incredible actor. But these are just two normal people that, understand children and understands all of the traumas that children go through and want to help and get what the campaign is all about. So, as well in your career is that, the connections that we all have are so important. And it's not about money, Lily. It's all about what you can give from your intellectual capabilities. Everybody has a skill or an art or a gift that at some stage they can actually contribute to a particular program or charity or an event or whatever, which does help things move to the next stage. And we are absolutely blessed to have so many amazing people behind us that just get what we want to do. This is not about Bernie Hollywood or anything else. This is all about the message of actually talking about suicide and depression. And the star of the show is right behind me.
Yeah.
It's the city of Liverpool, and it's the Boat of Hope. And it tells an incredible story of how a young person goes through this trauma and then comes out the other side.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, obviously, I'm looking forward enormously to when it actually happens. But before then, of course, 1st of April, you've got the the boat pull. Is that correct? You've got
we have. We've got 3 key activations in our Boat of Hope story and our campaign. And on the 1st of April, we are very, very blessed and fortunate to actually be working with the Ministry of Defence and Her Majesty's Armed Services, and we've secured the runway at one of the biggest armed services bases in the United Kingdom, which is at the Ministry of Defence base in Lynham. And we are going to pull our boat, the city of Liverpool behind us. She's going to be on a trailer, of course, and we're going to pull her over 300 miles, over 30 days. She's 3/4 of a ton, so she weighs a little bit. But we're going to pull the mural up and down runway 27, I think it is, that we've actually got at Lynham. And we're going to do that for 10 miles every day. And the significance of the 300 miles is really important, is that sadly last year in the United Kingdom, over 300 young children aged between 11 and 18 took their life through suicide. So each mile represents the loss of a young child to suicide last year. So we are celebrating those individual lives as we pull the boat every single day.
Well, I wish you all the very best with that. It's a good starter. I was going to ask you, when you're actually doing the main row in December, the Whiskey Teller, are you going to have a camera on board, I'm assuming, filming yourself 24/7 or just edited highlights, Bernie?
That's me, yeah. I think when you're telling a story, it's most important that you bring it to life. So it's pretty cool. I've got some great people behind me. I've got Salford University Media School as my social media team. So you can imagine I've got 12 young students that know social media like the background, and they know how to sell a story on social media. So I've got Salford University Media team on board with me. I have an amazing videographer consultant who's set me up with some incredible kit that will actually bring the activation to life whilst we're on the sea. Communicating on the sea is fairly difficult because when you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and you're 1,500 miles from anybody and you're halfway across, the nearest people to you actually are the people in the space station. They're the nearest folks to you. So the only way that we can communicate our story is by satellite navigation and satellite communication, which costs a fortune. But we are basically looking at broadcasting live from the ocean on a number of occasions. And more importantly, we're actually going to be reading each day. We're going to read a sealed letter of hope from 90 high school students. We're going to open a letter every day, and we're going to read that on video from the Atlantic when I'm having a rest, and talk about what hope means to them as we cross the Atlantic. So we're going to have 90 letters from the ocean as we go along. And then, of course, people will be able to see most spectacular views and weather and marine wildlife that you've ever seen, ever filmed. And we're filming it in a very special way. So we've got GoPros, and we've just acquired some great kit called Insta360. And if anybody wants to just check them out and see what they're up to, the imagery that we're going to be bringing back is going to be absolutely breathtaking.
I can't wait to see it, because it is, as you say, it's the most remarkable adventure. And, listening to this story, I feel emotional listening to you tell me about the letters every day. Goodness knows what state you're going to be in with everything else, exhaustion, sore hands. Reading these letters, Bernie, I think you're going to be in bits, frankly, on occasion.
You know what, Lily? I think I will be, but hey,
it's worthwhile.
Vulnerability is strength, and it doesn't really matter whichever direction you're coming from. To show your vulnerability is a sign of your own personal strength. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel vulnerable, because we're all human after all. And I think the more that we actually are in touch with our feelings, the more that we can convey and help other people, that it is okay to talk. And it is okay to talk about whatever you're feeling in your head. It's so important to get that out and talk about it, and feel as if you're not alone, which you're not. There are lots of people there to actually help and support you, although sometimes you feel that you are alone. You're not.
Good words. Going back to the training for the boat, obviously you've got, I know you're a very fit person, but obviously you've got to do a different kind of fitness for this, and also the diet. Now, obviously you're going to have special meals, all, vacuum packed. Do you have like a lead up time so that you adjust yourself and your diet ready, rather than just go out the night before for a big blowout curry and then get in the boat? You've obviously, it doesn't work like that, does it? You've got to prepare.
It's certainly not like a dental conference where you actually rock and roll and you go out and you actually have a blow-up curry in Birmingham and then you get...
Go out on the lash and then in you get.
Yeah, and then everybody's up at 8 o'clock in the morning looking as bright as rain. I don't know how they do that, by the way. So no, it's not like that at all. It's, there is a build-up, Lily, yeah. So the great thing about this race is the organisation of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give a huge shout out to Atlantic Campaigns, who are the race organisers of the Telescopic Atlantic Challenge. I thought I knew, I've dealt with lots of professionals in the past with regards to challenges and so on and so forth. But really, Atlantic Campaigns are right up at the top. Their structure of training, every I is dotted, every T is crossed with regards to your safety, your well-being, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your training plans. I had no idea until I actually signed up what I was going to let myself in for. And really, it takes 2 years to get to the start line, because you need that lead-in time to actually, you have to get certified, not mentally or as such, but you need to be certified to do the race from the point of view that you need to pass for Royal Yacht Association examinations before they'll actually allow you to sit in the boat. So, you need to know how to do basic navigation, save yourself when you're at sea, do first aid at sea, have basic sea personship skills as well. So, and I've just
sea personships. Is that, have they renamed it from?
Well, you can't say seaman anymore, can you? Really, seaman and seawoman. So
sea personships. Oh, there's a first for me today.
I've thrown that in because with I'm just trying to stay sort of diverse friendly. So you've got to basically have all of those qualifications and skills before Atlantic Campaigns will actually even think about allowing you to come to the start line. And on top of that, you have to have over 180 hours logged in your boat of rowing that boat. And over 48 hours of that has to be 2 rows out at sea on your own, which also have to be logged before you qualify and get to the start line.
Right.
One of the great things about Atlantic Campaigns, and if you look at the Telescopic Atlantic Challenge, which just finished this for this year, they had, I think, somewhere in the region about 35 boats, 36 people entered, and they got 35 boats safely across the Atlantic Ocean, all in one piece, all safely, all doing their own thing. They sadly lost one, whereby the gentleman got injured and he had to come back in on the third day or fourth day, I think it was. But their success record is absolutely incredible. And you know, I'm absolutely comforted by the fact that I've got Atlantic campaigns in the background with all the safety team and PR team behind me, because the race is seen by over 950 million people around the world. It's great to have that team behind you, actually getting you to the start line in the best physical and mental and also PR shape of your life, to be fair.
Cool. And how's it going? Have you done the Atlantic, the test runs yet? Are they happening between now and December?
Yeah, there's I've got an Atlantic rowing course lined up with Charlie Pitcher's company, which is Rannick, who obviously designed the amazing R10 solo behind me. Charlie's team run a number of training programs for ocean rowing throughout the year up to the build up to the race. So I can't do April, sadly, because I'm pulling the boat, but I've got I'm having a bespoke one done by Lizzie and the team. So they're going to get me down in May and in September, and I'm going to be putting a huge amount of hours in the boat on Burnham on Crouch, which is an estuary which runs in parallel with the Thames estuary. So I'll be rowing out into the English Channel, hopefully missing a few ferries along the way, and then rowing around the south coast. That's really going to be my training area.
Well, that's fantastic, and I don't think you knew this because we had a chat earlier, but my husband and I, we're from Burnham on Crouch, and we moved up to Warwickshire some 20 years ago. But of course, we personally know Lizzie and Charlie, so we know the area extremely well, and obviously we closely watch their enormous success of everything they're doing. So you'll have to give Burnham on Crouch all my very best when you go down there, and I shall tell all my friends that when you're down there to come out and give you a big cheer and a wave, and go and have a drink in the club, because you'll be made very welcome. I know, that's without a doubt. It's the most sociable, great place ever.
It is.
So, of course, Bernie, I was looking at, your incredible bio. I mean, and I'm going to take a little extract here from one of the many things written about you. Bernie is seen as one of the world's most elite and accomplished endurance adventurers, having climbed some of the world's greatest mountains, trekked unsupported to the geographic poles, trekked across deserts, ran thousands of miles, cycled across the globe, and holder of a prestigious Guinness World Record. I was going to ask you, what do you do in your spare time? But that's extraordinary, Bernie. So you're no stranger to pushing yourself to the absolute limit, to the brinks, and obviously also working alone. Tell me about the Guinness World Record.
The Guinness World Record was for the longest amount of miles completed, ran in 7 days. And that particular accolade was given to me when I basically completed 41 consecutive back-to-back marathons in 20 days. So I ran from John O'Groats to Land's End, and I finished it off with the London Marathon, which was my 41st marathon, on my 21st day. So the Guinness people actually gave us the record for the first 7 days of that particular adventure, which was from John O'Groats to Carlisle. So, and they basically had all of the information, all of the they tracked us and so on and so forth, made sure it was all above board and so on and so forth. You have to pay a fee to Guinness to actually to verify all of the data and to make sure that you haven't cheated, etc. And we bagged the record, which was fantastic. So it's whether it stands today or not, I very much doubt, because it was a wee while back. So it was 352 miles in 7 days, and that was solo running, as I say, from John O'Groats to Carlisle, and for 4 of those days it snowed. Wow. The weather was absolutely awful, and my support team will verify that. It was just dreadful. We were literally only into about an hour of the run, and I was really sort of ankle deep in snow and in sub-zero temperatures, and thinking this really isn't going to plan. And we also had to rescue a couple of sheep that had been blown over as well in a field. All true stories. But things did get better as we progressed through Scotland. And when we got halfway through Scotland to Inverness, the weather improved dramatically, and we started to really sort of up our game, so to speak. So yeah, it was a great adventure, and we raised £500,000 for Bernardo's, which was also equally incredible on that particular challenge. So extremely proud of my wonderful support team, and I have a great support team that come on all of my challenges, that really sort of helped me get through them and get to the other side. And but on this occasion, I'm going to be leaving them on the dockside in La Gomera, and then it's down to me.
Fantastic. I think we're going to have to do another podcast with you, because I do want to talk, but not on today's podcast, about you playing the ukulele and how you formed the world's first visually impaired orchestra and invented the first ever musical Braille song sheets. There's so many more things that you've done here, Bernie. It's quite extraordinary. But of course, I think one of the great achievements, and well deserved, was you being invested by the Queen in 2013, your OBE.
Yes.
Fabulous achievement. And also, you're a Justice of the Peace. I mean, how on earth do you get time for all this?
I always say is that, and again, you are an amazing time manager yourself, because I can actually throw that question back to you, because you run an incredible business, and you do so many other great things as well. You know, when you want to know how to actually use your time properly, you go and speak to a busy person, because they know how to actually squeeze as much value as you possibly can out of every single minute of the day. And you know, you have to get used to saying no, and it's awful because nice people don't like saying no. But you have to, because you can't do everything yourself. So it's a question of balance, and it's a question of prioritizing as you go. And we know all of this in running a business and being, you know, in the dental profession. Gosh, dentists have to basically sort of spin so many plates. But it's a question of prioritizing your time and maximizing every single minute of the day as you possibly can. And if you do that, it's incredible what time you actually create for yourself. Again, you make more impact by doing things like that. So yeah, sometimes you have to be pretty harsh with yourself and also harsh with other people. And you have to refuse doing things, not because you don't want to, it's because obviously you've got different priorities on time.
Well, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, you've raised, I think, at least £42 million. I know you're hoping to raise £1 million for the Boat of Hope.
We've just started our campaign, our donation campaign. We've got £10,000 in the bag, which is great, a great start. And thank you to all the people that have donated so far. It's been incredible. We are currently looking for a supporting donation partner. So for every pound that's being donated by somebody, we're looking for a corporate partner to come along and actually match fund that for us and get all of the benefits of this incredible campaign through their business. So if there's anybody out there that would like to consider becoming a charitable match funding partner, please reach out to me and have a chat. You can name however much you want to actually donate up to, and you can donate to either or charity. So we're really flexible with regards to what we do. And it would be an amazing opportunity for any business to come along with this campaign. As I say, the campaign is seen by over 950 million people globally.
That's extraordinary. Well done.
Yeah.
Bernie, thank you so much for your time today. I hate holding you up from your training.
Thank you.
Obviously, you can follow Bernie's preparation and build up to the event, which is in December this year. You can follow you've got lots of regular blog posts and through all the usual social media channels, boatofhope.com. And we will also run full contact details on the YouTube version of our discussion today, as well as on all our usual social media links. Bernie, it leaves me to wish you the very best of luck. But what do they say? There's no such thing as luck. It's skill, determination, and a sound knowledge of the game. And you've got them in spadefuls.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.